Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Lizzie. I hope you're doing good, feeling well, and ready to hear some stories about good old America. We're reading from, in lieu of my grandma's death recently, I used to read Reminisce magazines with her. This is actually a magazine company, but they sometimes come out with a thick book like this of their best stories, and this is all talking about life in America, mostly during World War II. I love stories. These are people who wrote into the magazine, who submitted their photos and wrote their story in a letter. So I'm going to read a few for you in this episode. This is episode 2. If you like it, you can look through. There is one other episode of Reminisce. So we're starting with Patriotic Pride. I'll read it to you. I'll show you the pictures either as we go or at the end. Okay. Oh, say, can you see the love of Americans have for their country? Throughout our nation's history, inspirational events and flag-waving occasions have colored us red, white, and blue. Mercury retrograde. When I was a teen, I played piano for our family's weekly sing-along parties held at our home in Patriotic, Michigan. Says Janine Carter of Springfield, I'm thinking of The Simpsons. Springville, California. Our lives drastically changed on December 7th, 1941, when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. One by one, my 5 brothers all joined the service. Our weekly house parties were transformed into gatherings of servicemen and their girls. We all became part of one large family that sang together, celebrated milestones such as engagements, and helped each other through hard times. When my brother Bob went missing in action in Germany, our songs turned sacred as we prayed for his safe return. Eventually and miraculously, all my brothers came home. We sang ballads of peace as we settled down to live in a more tranquil world. This chapter serves as a star-spangled salute to Americans' enduring spirit of patriotism. That had to be such a hard time. 5 brothers going off to war with their poor mother. It's like the Sullivans, which is what Saving Private Ryan was based off of. Seeds of victory. This garden harvest included a bountiful sense of pride. Down the cedar lane and into our house I ran, barely noticing the wood frame screen door banging shut behind me. Mom, Mom, look! I cried as I caught my breath. Seeds! My own seeds! Can I have my own garden, Mom? Can I? May I? My mother corrected me, closing the door to the oven of our very large wood-burning range and wiping her forehead with the hem of her apron. I spread the tiny packets of seeds from my school teacher into the red and white checkered oilcloth covering the kitchen table. The plain brown government issue envelopes were about 2 by 3 inches with black lettering. They weren't pretty like the seed packages in the store, the glossy ones with colorful pictures of white-tipped red globe radishes or bright orange carrots, but they were all mine. It was the spring of 1945, the waning months of a long world war of which I was vaguely aware of in rural, I can't say that word, Douglas County, Illinois. My one brother, Clarence, 12 years old, punctuation is bad. Sorry, guys. My one brother, Clarence, 12 years older than I, was no longer at the supper table each evening. He appeared at home from time to time, tall and handsome, in a navy uniform, to sweep me off my feet and twirl me around. These seeds are for your victory garden, Mother said, explaining that it took a lot of food to feed all of our sailors and soldiers, and that the President wanted everyone to grow their own food to save more for the war. Mother said that while I didn't have a place to create my own separate garden, I would plant my seeds at the ends of a couple of rows in the big garden. I piped up and wanted my own garden, but Mother said, "Don't be putting up a tune. Your daddy has enough on his mind without worrying about making you a garden." A few afternoons later, I heard Mother calling me as I skipped up the narrow road from school, my metal dinner bucket swinging and bumping against my legs. Before I turn the page, The Good Earth. The SICRA 1945 photo shows the author's mother, Audrey Halterman, working in the family's Victory Garden at their Illinois home. Planting the Victory Garden, that's her mama. My grandma said she had a Victory Garden too. There, between the garden ditch and the fence, was a small rectangle of freshly turned earth, the cods broken up and the soil raked smooth for planting. "Here is your Victory Garden," Mother said. "Daddy spaded it up for you at noon." Each day, under Mother's watchful eyes, I pulled weeds and thinned the carrots and beets. "These are from Gladys's mother," Mother announced on the evening that my first radishes were served at the table with dinner. I glowed with pride. Oh my God. "These are from Gladys's garden," Mother announced on the evening that my first radishes were served. So she grew radishes. In August, I was with Mother in the garden late one afternoon when the 6 o'clock whistle in town, about a mile away, blew early. Then came an eruption of sirens, car horns, and church bells. My older sister ran out of the house and called out something, and Mother flung her hoe in the ground and clasped her rough, red hands to her breast, bursting into tears. "What's wrong?" I cried, alarmed. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "The war is over," she said as she wept. "If the war is over," I asked, "then why are you crying?" "Because," she said with relief through her tears, "Clarence will be coming home." Oh, the nation which forgets its defenders will be itself forgotten. It's a quote of the time. Calvin Coolidge said that. Doing their part, Americans everywhere pitched in to help through the war effort, including author's brother Clarence Halterman and the author in front of teacher Ollie Brewer. So they got their seeds from school to do their Victory Gardens, and all of the kids did one. Everyone participated. Got family ties, just like Dad. When the fighting ended in Europe after World War II, my sister joined her husband, who was stationed in Germany. Relatives Marie Redrick of Silver Bay, Minnesota. Helen brought a piece of the same fine woolen material that was used to make officer shirts. She sent it to me, and I made a soldier's suit for a 3-year-old son, Hermie. His daddy was stationed in Italy during the war. So they reused soldiers to make their boys soldiers like their daddy. That's so cute. Desire to serve. This cherished family photo shows my grandmother with her 2 sons, says Libby Phillips Peters of McDormand, Ohio. My father, Willis Phillips, is seated, and his brother Stanley is in a uniform. Uncle Stanley served in France during World War I. My dad was very unhappy that he was too young to join his brother in the service. Why? World War I was horrible. I wouldn't want to go. On parade. Pulled together, growing up in the city of St. Joseph, Missouri, we kids were always anxious for the annual Apple Blossom Parade Festival. From the carnival rides to bands that came from surrounding counties, it was an exciting event. My buddy Wayne Boroff and I made our minds to be a part of the next parade festival. Because our country was firmly entrenched in World War II, we decided that a Victory Garden would be a great idea. But how could we create one as a parade float? Then we hit on the answer, an old radio flyer wagon. It would make the perfect container for our Victory Garden, and even better, we could easily pull it as we walked in the parade. To dress the part, we donned overalls and straw hats. With a few garden tools and a little red, white, and blue trim, we were all set. When the big event finally arrived, we took our place in the parade lineup. It wasn't long before we discovered that walking in a parade takes a lot more energy than watching one. Pulling the wagon in the hot, muggy weather, Wayne and I kept eyeballing each other as the parade stretched on for miles and hours. We each wondered how we both would be able to convince each other that this was a good idea. By the time the parade ended, the sweat was running off our noses. We didn't even know if we could make it back home without our parents rescuing us during the attempt. When we got the biggest surprise of all, our little float had won first prize in the parade. After receiving that honor, we didn't need anyone to take us home. We held our sweaty little noses high and proudly hauled our prize winner all the way. Oh, there they are with the Victory Garden on wheels. They won. That's so cute. Grand Band. My family always looked forward to the Hammond, Indiana Memorial Day Parade, writes Frances Sabro of Springfield, Illinois. The photo of Thomas A. Edison Elementary School marching band in 1960 shows my brother John Cogman of the far right. In the photo taken before the parade, Jan is on the left standing next to our brother Marty. So even in the 60s, they were still doing war parades for Vietnam as well. All right, Stars and Stripes. We were in all the parades promoting the war effort in the 12th Ward of Allentown, Pennsylvania, writes Shirley Posey, who now lives in Center Valley. The parade started at the fairgrounds and we marched down Hamilton Street. I'm the nurse. My name was Shirley Nickbick then. Pictured from left are Nancy Cronch, Betty Linewalker, and Chuck Linewalker. Me, Charlie, and Dosh Roshman, and Raymond Brown. So they were nurses and they walked in the parade while the kids were dressed as all the jobs. Marching on, this early 1940s photo taken by my father, Gerald Haywood, shows a 4th of July parade heading down Ashfield Street toward the bridge connecting the small town of Piedmont, West Virginia, with Western Port, Maryland, relates Richmond Haywood of Laurel, Maryland. There was always a big turnout for the parade, both in spectators and in marching bands that agreed to perform, usually from Maryland, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Parades were all the rush back then, especially for the war effort. Let's go. If you can find a parade, why not? If you can't find a parade, why not make your own? In this 1946 photo, patriotic youngsters in Patriotic, Michigan, were ready to celebrate the 4th of July with drums and Old Glory. My brother, Bill Hannon, is on the far left, and my other brother, Mike Hannon, is on the far right next to me. A friend, Bill Hill, is the other little boy. Look at cute little kids. They didn't have much for costumes back then, huh? All right. Fireworks raise spirits. Every 4th of July brings back memories of a time when my father brought our town together in a small but spectacular way. During the 1940s, the population of Wilton, New Hampshire was around 1,200. Our little community had seen 252 men and women leave home and go off to serve in World War II. Dad, who was not eligible to enter the military, was looked upon as a town leader. As such, he wanted to boost the morale of those left behind, who feared for their parents, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, and other loved ones in harm's way. To create diversions from their daily worries and struggles, my father organized band concerts, movies shown at the town hall, and talent shows. But perhaps the best-loved event was the community fireworks display he put on at our house each Independence Day. Dad purchased whatever fireworks he could find for the show, which was held at the edge of our yard, bordering a very large apple orchard. On the afternoon of July 4th, he began setting up banquet tables borrowed from the town hall and brought out all of our chairs. For an added touch, Dad set up his Sears, Roebuck and Company record player on the lawn. The rousing patriotic music began at noon. As evening approached, folks started arriving. Many walked more than 4 miles due to the gas shortage. They carried plates and bowls of food, which they placed on the tables for everyone to enjoy. When night fell, the show started. Dad lit skyrockets, Roman candles, lawn displays, and loud boomers that drew enthusiastic applause from the gathered townspeople. Sometimes rockets sparked small fires and where they landed, but we didn't worry. The town's 2 fire trucks were on hand to put them out. All of us feasted on the potluck food as we watched the colorful bursts of light Dad sent into the sky. Eventually, he ran out of fireworks and the show had to come to a close. But the evening didn't end there. Before leaving, those of us in the crowd joined together in a patriotic gesture of our own. We sang our national anthem and God Bless America, our voices ringing out with renewed resolve to face whatever challenges lay ahead. That's beautiful. There's no real pictures for this one. Our time with Truman. This is the last one for this episode. Oh, maybe not. A couple more pages. I took my 7th grade class from William Cullen Brandt Elementary School in Kansas City, Missouri, on a field trip in 1953. We traveled by train to the state capital in Jefferson City, but the highlight occurred on the way home. One of the chaperones, Miss John Oliver, informed me that the former President Harry S. Truman was aboard the train in one of the forward staterooms, and he agreed to come back to our car and visit with the students. Miss Oliver and I sat in the front seats of the car awaiting his arrival. 10 minutes later, I looked up, and there stood the man who just 3 months earlier had been the leader of the free world. There were no military bands playing, no Secret Service agents attending, and no politicians tagging behind. A small man in a double-breasted suit and thick eyeglasses stood there with a big grin on his face. After introductions, Miss Oliver left the 2 of us sitting together in the front seat while she hurried to the next car to bring other chaperones to meet Mr. Truman. I felt rather tongue-tied. What could I say to the man who had conferred with world leaders like Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin, Eisenhower, the Pope, and many others? Knowing that there were 30 12-year-olds behind us trying to hear what we were saying didn't help either. Mr. Truman soon put me at ease, chatting and asking me about my students, family, and service in the Navy. After the other chaperones were introduced, the president made his way down the aisle and greeted each student with a handshake, a few pleasant words, and a big smile. Then he waited patiently while each student with a camera had their picture taken, shaking hands with him. He never once lost his big grin. After he left the car, I began tearing off sheets of the Missouri Pacific Railroad notepad Mr. Truman had handed me minutes earlier. He had taken the time to sign his autograph on each of the 40 sheets in the pad, so I passed one out to every student and chaperone, and I have that small scrap of paper to this day. As the train pulled into the station at Independence, where the Trumans lived, it was raining and nearly dark. The kids opened the windows. Missouri Pacific still used such windows back then, and poked their heads out, hoping to get one more glimpse of Mr. Truman as he left the train. No one was there to meet him or carry his luggage. We saw him step down from the train, put on his big brown felt hat, grab his luggage, and take a detour toward our car, where 30 children and their chaperones were cheering and yelling goodbyes. He stopped near our train car, put down his luggage, removed his hat, and stood there in the drizzling rain, waving to our group. Those 30 youngsters are now all adults or of retirement age, and I'll bet not one of them has ever forgotten our meeting with the man in a double-breasted suit and big felt hat, who today is considered by most Americans to be among our nation's 10 greatest presidents. There's the paper that he wrote his signature on. That's so cool. Food for the troops. It was May 29, 1943, and I was 20 years old. Navy wave on a what? They write this so weird. It was May 29th, 1943, and I was a 20-year-old Navy wave on a train going from New York to Norman, Oklahoma. I was about to begin training as an aviation machinist mate at the Naval Air Technical Training Center. Many other troops were on the same train, heading for parts unknown. Our train was having great difficulty getting over the mountains because of its length. The engineer finally decided the crew must detach both the baggage and dining cars, which left us without food. By the time we reached the next little town, it was Sunday, May 30th, Memorial Day. When we pulled into the station, we were greeted by the most wonderful sight. A large crowd was waiting for us on the platform. As it turned out, the engineer had radioed ahead and explained our predicament. The town people had announced the news at all of their church services. Everyone went home and brought their Sunday dinners to the station to feed the hungry troops. When I realized that these generous people, what they had done for us, I cried. I was filled with pride for this town, its residents, and America. We got underway again, the troops well fed and excited. After arriving in Norman, we were busy settling into our new barracks and didn't have time to think about what had happened during the trip. When I was finally able to reflect on that day, I couldn't remember the name of the town, something I've always regretted. I wish I could thank all those people for their kindness. They were our heroes. God bless them all. Oh my God! That's so cute. On guard! The few, the proud. Corporal John Johnson was a U.S. Marine stationed in Hawaii. This photograph was taken at a Marine Corps birthday ball. He writes from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Today, I'm a member of the Kent County Veterans Honor Guard. I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same. They were still having Marine balls back then. Teen scene. My sister and lifelong friends and I were members of the American Legion Auxiliary and served at the Legion Color Guard for years. I cleaned someone's house, an older lady. She was still in the Legion from when she was a teenager till I think she lived to be like 94 or 5. She stayed into it until her dementia got bad. The Red Cross. As a young girl during World War I, my mother, Dorothy Byrne Eisenberg, posed for a Red Cross awareness campaign. Mom was born in 1910. This picture was taken by her grandfather, who ran a photography studio in Brooklyn, New York. So that was a campaign. Her mom was a part of a Red Cross. That's cool. Lady in White. When Mary Ivy of Jackson, Tennessee served as a Red Cross volunteer during World War II, she was required to wear a Red Cross uniform. Mary made the one she's wearing in the photo. She made that herself. Oh my God, these are old advertisement. Waterman's Pen and Ink. And then grind that crank, Sailor. That radio is our one hope of getting back alive. So they're trying to sell radios. And then they're trying to sell ink. That's crazy. All right. I hope you like that version. The next will be more about dads because they'll be closer to Dad's Day when I read this. But I love these Reminisce stories. I strongly suggest getting the magazine because not only do you get magazines all the time, but eventually you get these really cool books of all the best stuff. And they do all different ones. So I hope you liked it. I will continue to read from this book until it's done. So I'll see you next time. Love and light. Bye.